Good morning and good afternoon to wherever you are joining us from today, and a big hello and kia ora from New Zealand. Welcome to our webinar today, Ozone and COVID-19 and what you need to know. Okay, my name is Sinjin Voitilavoni. I am the product manager for Aeroqual's indoor fixed, handheld and AQY product ranges. I've been with Aeroqual for 4.5 years, and most of this time I've spent supporting customers in our international markets with a myriad of applications from outdoor air quality, indoor air quality and ozone solutions. I am based in Auckland, New Zealand. This is our largest city, and this is where Aeroqual is headquartered. Joining me today is Brian Taylor. He's the co-founder and vice president of operations at Sage Industrial Corp, and he runs all facets of the business. Brian is responsible for initiating the air purification division at Sage, and he comes with a wealth of expertise and experience with ROS technology, and he's going to touch on that later today. Sage has over 7,000 installed systems and is based in Clovis, a city in Fresno County, California, where I understand they're enjoying some lovely warm weather at the moment. Hi, Brian.
Perfect. How you doing? It's nice to see you.
Great, welcome. And before I continue, just to let you know that we're going to have 3 single question polls during this presentation. And feel free to enter any questions as we go, and we'll try and cover as many of these as we can at the end of the presentation. Right, let's get started. So who are Aeroqual? Well, Aeroqual was founded back in 2001 by Dr. Jeff Henshaw, who's our CTO, and Professor David Williams. So between the two of them, they patented a low-cost, reliable and accurate sensor for the measurement of ozone. Also in 2001, the US Food and Drug Administration approved the use of ozone as a sterilizing agent. So this opened the opportunities for the unique ozone sensor that Aeroqual went on to develop, and it also triggered the release of our first product into the US market, which was a handheld ozone monitor. And that's actually still one of our best-selling products these days. So since then, we've built on our strengths and expanded into other sensor-based applications. And just a couple of years ago, we actually secured a 5-year research and development agreement with the US EPA to advance air sensor technologies. So ozone, what is all the fuss about? Well, during March this year, we observed quite a significant spike in ozone inquiries related to COVID-19 coming through our website. And this came out of the blue, in response to COVID-19. And in response to this, to try and address some of the questions we saw, we wrote a blog asking, does ozone sterilization kill the coronavirus, which causes COVID-19? And feel free to go onto our website and have a look at that. It goes into more detail, which I won't go into today. But in April, in response to that blog, we received a 1,200% increase, or 100% more hits on this blog than actual visitors to our own homepage, which just showed the significant amount of interest in this topic. So yeah, just put into contrast a website, on any website, the homepage is typically the most visited page by some margin. So to have a blog eclipse the landing page for your website was a significant interest of the what people are looking for out there in relation to ozone and COVID-19. So then we started to see a lot of articles popping up, and I'm sure you all did. Wherever you go on the internet now, it's COVID-19, it's ozone, the sterilization, articles were popping up everywhere. And these articles tend to reflect interest that we are still seeing in inquiries we receive about ozone and sterilization today. But some of these articles covered things like positive things, using ozone to disinfect respiration masks for frontline workers. So with COVID-19, it came at such a shock and so fast and hard that a lot of countries were scrambling for PPE and gear, and ozone is one of these methods that you can use to actually turn around equipment a lot faster rather than using traditional sterilization methods. But at the same time, ozone was being exploited as a tool to capitalize on the hysteria around COVID-19, and things such as ozone therapy and things were being touted as potential solutions. But yeah, in addition to these positive articles, there are also a lot of information being touted, like the ozone therapy, either naively or for financial gain. And so as a result, some government agencies like the US EPA jumped in and started to provide information for the public about using ozone and either at home or at work, the safety considerations that should be observed to avoid secondary health complications, so things like overexposure. And we actually fielded quite a number of innocent inquiries from companies who were trying to do the best things by their employees and installing ozone generators into their offices to following on for the news. Ozone kills coronavirus and things, and very early stages, and so they were jumping on this bandwagon of information, but not fully understanding what they were doing. And so then contacting us after they've got these generators and saying, actually, our staff are a bit concerned. They're now starting to read articles that it's not potentially the best thing for us if we don't know what we're doing. So the EPA put out information around, and other agencies did as well, about how to protect yourself and the considerations if you are looking at ozone. To keep your environments clean and disinfected. So really the only way to check if an environment that you're in is safe is to use a monitor to monitor ozone. So when you get into monitors for ozone, there are a number of different technologies that you can consider. And what we're going to cover today is really low cost measurement of ozone. And when I mean low cost, I mean in the context of these technologies, it's a low cost in the sense that it's a device or a sensor that still delivers a significant, a scientifically meaningful measurement and quality of measurement, and relative to what you'd probably call a reference monitor, an analyzer. These are devices which typically cost thousands of dollars more than what we're talking about here. So there is a big cost difference. So low cost is accessible technology with very good measurement quality. So there are two leading technologies, and the first one here is electrochemical sensors, or EC sensors, as people often call them. And these sensors have a electrolyte in them, and the way they operate is that the sensor measures a response change in the electrochemical potential, and that on the sensor, which is caused by the amount of ozone that's exposed, that the sensor is exposed to. Similarly, we have heated metal oxide sensors, and again, this is the measurement is derived from a response change. But in this example, the heated metal oxide sensors, which we call HMOS, it's the current change is a result from a change in current flow through the metal substrate on the sensor itself. And so Aeroqual has actually taken this technology one step further, and we've added some proprietary measurement techniques to it, and which we are able to get a lot more accurate measurement, a lot more reliable and stable measurement, and we use some other techniques to deliver this, and we call this technology gas sensitive semiconductor. So that's what I will refer to from here on in the context of this presentation, referring to the sensors that we use. So we've got two different types of technologies we're comparing here, and so we've got EC and GSS. So what are the differences between them? How do they compare? So in I guess if you sort of narrow it down in the short term, EC sensors, they are less affected by VOC cross interference than GSS sensors. They have a fast response time, but they're extremely also 100% cross sensitive to gases such as nitrogen dioxide and chlorine. And they also can be influenced by temperature and humidity changes. On the other side, we have GSS sensors, which are very responsive to ozone below 0.1 ppm. They have excellent repeatability and accuracy versus good repeatability and accuracy of an EC sensor, but they are cross-sensitive to the presence of volatile organic compounds, and they do have a slower response time. So I guess the question you're probably asking is, which sensor do I use? So that's going to depend on your application. So if your application or health and safety requirements require measurement and reliability above 0.1 ppm, then the EC sensor is going to be a good choice for you. The speed of response and wide range of measurement for the EC sensor makes it a sensible option if you're looking at leak detection as well. If your applications contain VOC sources, which are volatile organic compounds, then the EC is also a good choice for you. For ozone sterilization applications, where typically levels of ozone are much higher, around 10 ppm has tended to be quite common, then the EC sensor is ideally suited for you. If you're, so by contrast, you've got the GSS sensor, and this has, with its excellent accuracy and stability below 0.1 ppm, they're really the only option for health and safety applications, especially where you have regulations around the world that are moving towards continually lower exposure thresholds. So when I mean exposure thresholds, these are what you're exposed to when you're in the workplace or in the environment that you are working in. So typically health and safety exposure limits for ozone are 0.07 and 0.1, between 0.07 and 0.1 ppm over about 8 hours. And they can go as low as 0.05 ppm for short-term exposure. Short-term exposure can be 20 minutes, can be 15 minutes, or it could be derived by the type of work you're doing, if it's heavy lifting or the amount of exertion that you're doing in your workplace. So these really low levels actually show why GSS sensor is the best choice for these types of applications. My mouse to respond. So, as I mentioned on the previous slide, the EC sensor is ideal for measuring ozone levels above 0.1 ppm. So many sterilization applications we have typically been associated with have only required a sensor up to 10 ppm in recent times. And since COVID-19, we've actually had receiving a lot more requests for a sensor with a range of up to 30 ppm. And these applications involve a high level of ozone for short duration. So it's like a short, sharp shock treatment, I guess, is the terminology that people sometimes use. And they want to ensure that the ozone levels are retained and maintained at this level during that process. So in response, Aeroqual is going to be releasing in August a 0 to 30 ppm EC sensor, and that can be used on our fixed monitor base, the Series 900 remote sensor kit, which will allow you to put the sensor into a room while having the monitor outside, and that would connect into our handheld monitor, which is shown at the bottom of the slide there. So here we've come to our first poll, and in this poll we're going to ask the question, just to get some quick feedback, is what is your knowledge of ozone sterilization and monitoring? Yeah, if you could just take a moment to answer this, it'd be great to get your feedback. I can still see some results coming in, so I'll just wait till everyone's had a chance to put their vote through. That's great. Look at that, yeah. So it's what I expected with this presentation, and how to pitch it, is that we've got quite a spread of people with knowledge of ozone sterilization coming in, and for those who this is all new to you, well done. You know, it's great to see you on the call and looking to learn a bit more about ozone. Those of you who can talk about it in great detail, you know, welcome as well. It's just great to see, looking out for more knowledge and seeing what's out there, and maybe getting a different perspective, or maybe I might learn something from you in due course as well. So great to have you all on. Just going to get through to the next slide here. Great. Okay, so I'm just going to share a recent case study with you. Jimco, they're a customer of ours in Denmark, and they're manufacturers of air purification and sterilization solutions that they sell locally and export to other countries outside of Europe and within Europe. So they, the applications their products are sold into cover food manufacturing. So this would be food processing plants, packaging, commercial kitchens, usually in extraction hoods, education facilities, accommodation providers such as rest homes and hotels. With COVID-19 coming into the picture, they actually experienced, like us, a significant increase in inquiries for ozone sterilization, and a lot of inquiries about the effectiveness of their products. So in response to that, they had their product independently tested, and the results that they got back showed successful disinfection by more than 99.99% on the modified Vaccina Viru Ankara, the MVA. That's probably foreign to all of us, but the MVA is actually the official model of the virus in Europe, as it represents all the enveloped viruses, including coronavirus, which is also known as coronavirus, and includes SARS, MERS, and the one that's causing COVID-19. So they had this independently tested, and they've had a letter written up about the process that went through and the results of that to give their customers some confidence around the performance of their products. What's happened here? Oops, go back a bit. Just going to try and get my slide go back a bit. Okay, there we are, got that sorted. So what Jimco is trying to assist their customers with, some of the problems that customers have been facing is that the customers have environments that they want to disinfect and sterilize on a regular and ongoing basis, and they want to do it thoroughly. So typically what you find in these environments is electrical equipment and sensitive equipment that doesn't like moisture or dampness and things, and so trying to sterilize a very large environment that has a variety of equipment in it, traditional methods just aren't going to work. So this is where their customers have turned to them, because ozone helps in many ways. It's very effective alternative to chemicals, and unlike chemicals which you have to actually wipe down a surface or spray, ozone is distributed into the environment, and rather than being line of sight, it actually gets onto surfaces wherever they're exposed, whether they're a vertical surface or a horizontal surface. And there's no post-treatment wipe down or any cleaning to do afterwards. That's part of the nice thing about ozone. And with their products, they monitor ozone, and one of the reasons they do this is that they need to show efficacy, or that the treatment that they've done has run long enough and the amount of ozone generated has been sufficient to achieve the outcomes that they want to with regards to sterilization and disinfection. And it's also for health and safety, so you don't want people going into the environment if the ozone levels are still high or above the thresholds that have been mandated by regulations or the industry's own control measures. So Jimco's been very successful with the product they call the Floaty Mini, and they've it's now up to the Mark II version, which is and they use this product for wheeling into spaces, turning it on, and leaving it to do its thing. That's just the nice thing about it. It's actually a very funky looking device if you get to see more images of it. I really like the fact they have a LED strip underneath the bottom of the unit, which ties into one on the top, and it's a bit like a souped-up car at night, you know. And the LEDs that they use to indicate the status of the monitor when it's operating. Yeah, so they've actually got our Series Line 30 monitor mounted to the back of this, to their Floaty Mini. And the reason they have that is to monitor the ozone and to record the ozone levels during this process to make sure that, like I said before, that the ozone levels have reached the required level, they've been maintained for that. And at the same time, they're able to log that data. So if the company that they provide this for, or if the company's purchased the Floaty Mini, they are then able to access records to look back for the quality assurance that the process has been thoroughly done, and as part of their quality management system. And of course, it's the health and safety. So they have a wireless controller on this that goes to a pad on the wall that will tell operators when it's safe to re-enter the environment. So Yannick, this is some feedback from Yannick from Jimco, and here he says, the S930 monitor is a very important part of the product because it gives us the signal to our data log system so that we can log the whole treatment process. This is the customer's guarantee that the treatment has been done effectively. So as sort of covered on, there's a lot of different applications that can be ozone can be used, and here are just some of them. There's a much wider range, but the top left-hand corner, food safety and conditioning. So it's not only used for ensuring that environments are clean and sterile, but it's actually used for stopping fruit becoming ripening too soon, but also ensuring that bacteria doesn't grow in the environments that the fruit is stored in. So it increases the shelf life of products. It makes for keeping the product conditioned while it's being transported between countries or locations. Then we have water treatment. So this covers everything from bottled water, you know, bottled water you buy from the shop, to drinking water that you would get in your tap or faucet at home, and wastewater treatment plants. So it's used for just sort of cleaning the water as it goes through, removing odor, hydroponic farms, cooling towers, ventilation systems where there's a lot of, you probably might have heard of Legionnaire's disease and things in the past. And so ozone is used in treating those very large cooling towers on large buildings, pools, aquariums, laundries. It's also used in water treatment areas for, so the image there is of a Coke plant and Coca-Cola, I should say, and so for sterilizing bottles as well prior to them going through the process. So top right-hand corner, manufacturing and farming. So again, this is a very common area. So disinfection of production lines, clean rooms, odor control on the bottom left-hand corner. We're seeing a lot of applications for garbage rooms, trash rooms, to get rid of the odor for tenants or nearby residents, and also in ventilation systems. So we've sold some of our monitors into public transport facilities overseas where they're trying to reduce the amount of odor generated by people coming in and sweat and heat and smoke and things like that. So about keeping the environment smelling, and it's often used a lot in casinos, believe it or not, for people who are sitting on their gaming machines all day and just keeping that environment fresh and avoiding the air going stale, or just the amount of people that are smoking and the smells that sort of build up in those type of enclosed environments. Sterilization, so this has been something that's really shot up the radar a lot, as you can expect with COVID-19. So sanitizing equipment, clean rooms, and the great thing about Ozone is the turnaround time to get product cleaned and sterilised and back into use a lot faster than you would typically have done in the past. And commercial kitchens, this has been another strong area for Ozone. It breaks down fat, gets rid of ozone, gets rid of odours. And so especially if you're exhausting the kitchen exhaust into an alleyway or a street side, and you've got people walking past, the last thing they want is all the smell of that product coming out into their environment. So yeah, what I meant to say at the start was, if you've got questions as we're going through, feel free to submit them, and we'll cover them as we go, come towards the end. But this brings us to our next poll. So in this poll here, we're asking, is ozone sterilisation a potential solution for your application? And by application, I mean your current application, whether it's sterilisation, odour control, or sort of something else. So that what you're interested in for ozone treatment. Great. Thanks again for taking your time to vote. And yeah, it's really interesting. I love these polls. They're quick and easy, and I think they're quite insightful. I'm sure I hope you find them as interesting as I do. So yeah, a lot of you are already using Ozone. That's great. Some of you are ready to get started, and there's a good number of you that are considering it. So I'm hoping that this this presentation is providing you with some information, and if not, and if we don't get around to asking you questions at the end, please do reach out to us after the presentation. And if you're not keen or ready to switch, either you're just learning a bit more information, or you've got other reasons for that. But yeah, no, great to have you all on, and thank you again for taking your time with that poll. So now we're I'm sort of finished the area that I was going to cover, and I'm going to hand you over to Brian now to take you through his topic, and I'll pick up again at the end. But over to you now, Brian.
Oh, thank you, St. John. So basically, you know, our company, AirROS by Sage Industrial, makes a product that is designed as an air purification and surface purification system. And we're based here in Fresno, California, USA, Central California, where we're having quite a lockdown right now, as I'm sure as a lot of you are. But we have applied this technology for about 15 years in perishables like meats, poultry, seafood, fish, nuts, wine, flowers, and recently some of our flower customers have converted over to cannabis, you know, the cash crop, and they have issues with obviously pathogens like mold, powdery mildew, things like that. Odor control, really big for them. And so we made that natural transition to being able to treat, treat their environments. And what we do is obviously right now our main talk, and the world changed, right? So now here we are, and we kill coronavirus. We've done testing in the past against various viruses as they've come about, like H1N1 when it was really a big issue, SARS, staph infections, etc. But our primary focus has been perishables with destroying pathogens like the botrytis and things that grow on various products, molds, etc. And of course, now with the everything going on, we're working towards odor control in cannabis, and now treating environmental spaces. So our markets drastically changed for the really for the better for us. Our product is usable in these environments, but our main thing is we're using what's called reactive oxygen, and I'll talk to you about how that works. So what we're doing is we're putting our purifier, this is our small model, our physically sized small model, and it's basically taking the ambient air from the environment. In some cases, we're actually running piping from an HVAC system or some other type of airflow system through our unit as well, but most of the time we're taking the ambient air using a high voltage, some will refer to it as a corona discharge, make a plasma to basically a high voltage controlled pulse that we can vary the frequency. Based on that, then we create what's called reactive oxygen. Reactive oxygen comes out into the environment, and that's where we're sanitizing everything on the surfaces. That's our claim to fame, is we actually are not just purifying the air going through our unit, but also everything that the ROS that comes out of our unit touches. And so by doing that, two of the ROS that come out, one of them is ozone, which is the topic of this meeting. And we actually use ozone as our marker, our dynamic marker, to know what's going on in the environment. It's highly reactive. It's quick to let us know that a door has been opened or new product has come into the room, or for whatever reason, the bioload has changed. So the ozone is quick to react. We also are producing hydrogen peroxide. So these are the two long-lived ROS that I have a slide further that kind of discusses this as well. But these are the two long-lived ROS that come out. H2O2 is obviously formed using some of the moisture in the air. We're not adding any chemicals. There's nothing added to our system. It's all taking the ambient air and creating this. But the cool thing about our system is it combines both the O3 and the H2O2, the ozone and the hydrogen peroxide, to create trioxidane. Now, Sinjin mentioned earlier, like water treatment, there's a lot of water treatment plants that'll use ozone and hydrogen peroxide, mix it to create trioxidane, and that trioxidane is what's also cleaning in water treatment. The body actually creates trioxidane. There's about 11 ROS that are in the body. Trioxidane is a natural antimicrobial agent, and that's our primary kill agent, basically, in surfaces inside the environment. And let me move on here. So this is a more detailed slide, but the very short-lived reactive oxygen species are going to be like hydroxyl radicals, and you'll see that in various different technology, even some UV technology that does PCO, PHI. There's a couple different names for it. They'll create some hydroxyl radicals as well, but most of them won't create singlet oxygen, superoxides, atomic oxygen, and the peroxynitrite. The long-lived that we just discussed are the ones that come out of our units that go and then kill in the environment, and therefore making trioxidane. So it's not really, trioxidane is not a reactive oxygen species, but it's created by the two. The short-lived don't even make it out of our unit normally, but they're highly reactive. So anything that's coming by, pathogen, mold, spores, anything that does go through our unit is obviously subjected to all 7 of these ROS. But the long-lived ones are really helping us in the environment. That's where we can stop things like cross-contamination or just the nooks and crannies that happen in a lot of these food processing facilities and drains and in drip pans, things like that, where we can reach everything the air touches with this. We teamed up with Aeroqual, oh my gosh, 15 plus years ago. I think we've been doing this now, Sinjin, and our primary unit that we're using right now is their SM50 model. It's an OEM model that they have. We have about 4 options to use on it depending on the application. We mount this in our controller that you see on the left. And the reason, again, we're measuring the ozone, it's very dynamic. In our rooms, we're normally between 30 ppb, so very low levels. Some of our customers will raise it up to the 50 ppb mark, and very few do we ever run in the 100 mark. This sensor has a range of 0 to 150, so we're able to use that same sensor for all those applications. We also, as he mentioned, the 930 series that was used in the high-level ozone treatment, we use that as well in wet environments. So there's some cases where we'll put a remote sensor and use that 930 series. But this OEM version for us offers us various things like the 10% above a set point relay control. And we have use this system with older purifiers that are out in the field and people are having trouble with monitoring or control, and we'll use that as a safety relay. We do all our remote control and integration with greenhouse controls and various PLCs that customers have through the RS-485. We have various equipment that'll talk to this via RS-485 and convert for customers. And then we use the analog control as well. And some customers, we use the alarm capabilities where they can get a page through their maintenance system that says, hey, we have an over alarm condition where we're over a certain limit, or even if there's a sensor failure, we'll use that alarm for that as well sometimes. So for us, we're using the GSS technology because of the low levels that we run. And so all of our calibrations that Aeroqual does for us is in that 0 to 100 range, even though the capability is up to 150. So we have them calibrated for our application. I believe we're going to a poll. So here's a quick poll for you. What benefit is most important in today's market? We're seeing a lot of different reasons that people are using ozone at low level concentration or high odor reduction, bacteria, mold control, virus control, seeing a lot of peace of mind. You know, they just want to be able to put the sticker on the door saying that we are treating this environment and it's safe. And then some are looking at reduced litigation. So I'll give you a moment to look through that. All right, odor reduction. I would assume that would have been low. That's a really big thing in cannabis, clearly. Bacteria mold control, yep, 12%. Virus control, 49%. So as usual, the world is dictating that virus control is the most important, which is nice for us because now we've always treated perishables, and we had talked to various people about virus control in office spaces, et cetera. We do a lot of locker room for meat processors, et cetera. But obviously, between everything going on in the world, the environmental control obviously is taking a forefront. So interesting. So knowing this, even though we've done previous testing on virus control, et cetera, we got a third-party lab that does air sampling, food safety type sampling, and we use the OC43 coronavirus, which is one of the varieties right now of the coronavirus that's used for testing. So it's basically surrogates that are available. And they tested at 30 ppb for us, as that's the levels that we run at in most cases, especially for various applications in food and perishables. Now that people are perishable, 30 ppb is a good low level. We just had, Fresno was at 101, I think it hit ppb just the other day outside. So ground level ozone tends to be higher than most of our rooms and in most cases, but we tested, and the very first test they wanted to do as a pre-test, they ran it, and we normally do our tests at 1 hour, 2 hour, 4, 8, 12, 24. In 1 hour, they had no remaining coronavirus. So we had to start our whole testing over, which delayed us, and so we decided to do 15-minute increments. So what this result shows is that within 15 minutes, we had a 99.98% reduction. And remember, we're only at 30 ppb. So the ozone alone is not what's doing this kill. The combination of the hydrogen peroxide and the trioxidane is what's causing this quick of a reduction. And our reductions in real life will actually be faster, as a virus is easier to kill when it's not, best way to say, integrated with the host. So we have to, in order to do a lab test, we have to start, and our over 7 log start point is 36 million colonies of coronavirus, is where we started. And in the first 15 minutes, we were down to 5,200. And in order to really show a full kill, especially in the food section, you know, the food verticals, they want to see a 5 log reduction. Some will accept a 4. So you're looking for that 99.99 or 99.999% reduction to be considered a full kill. So you have to start above 100,000 in order to do a test like this. We started at 36 million. And in real world, you're probably only going to see about 1,000 as a real world, and we'll be able to kill faster. But we had a 90% reduction you can interpolate from the data in less than 4 minutes. And then we were down to only 10, 8, and 11 CFU, depending on whether it was plastic, stainless steel, or floor tile, because again, this is surface tests that we're doing. And on those surfaces, at 30 minutes, we only had 10 out of 36 million left. So in reality, we probably kill at 32 minutes, but we're basically, letting everybody know at 45 minutes we had a full kill. And this is on surfaces. So this is important because as if you're running a low concentration with people present in office spaces and fitness clubs, things like that, like we're doing now, then you know that within 4 minutes, you're having a 90% reduction on any surface it's touching. So that could be on people's clothes, that can be just on door handles that are exposed. Obviously the outside of the door handle, if it's outdoors, we're not touching it. So anything we touch, and it's a continual cleaning. So if somebody is doing an ozone treatment, let's say even a high shock at night, which wouldn't really be required, but if you're doing that at night, everything's clean by the next morning, but it can be recontaminated the first time somebody with COVID, whether asymptomatic or not, walks in and recontaminate something. Now you can try to wipe down, and we don't recommend anybody changes any standard operating procedures. Keep your masks on, stay 6 feet apart, etc. But why not have a 24/7 protection and let you know you're cleaning as things are being touched by the air continually with our system. So the lab reductions have showed this. We're also doing real world testing as well, where we have customers doing pre and post sampling to verify reductions. Most of the time when we put our product in a lab, it's really difficult to put it in a lab because we make industrial sized equipment, so it's for larger spaces. Trying to get it into a lab environment is really tough. And we have more trouble in a lab passing the results than we do in real world. So I always trust the real world testing, and we have a lot of our customers doing that right now, proving the reductions, and that's important to us. Again, our applications primarily, hold on, I need to move the slide there, sorry about that. Our applications, environmental is new for us, but the food applications we've been doing, meat processing all the way through, refrigerated truck. We actually do make some portable small units that are used for shock treatment in between loads in a refrigerated truck for distributors, etc. Obviously, the plant applications was our latest thing that we started in about 2017, and now environmental. So we're treating, churches, schools, hotels, offices, fitness clubs. I mean, you name it. It's really opened up for us, especially since we're able to do continuous low-level treatment while people are present. So that's kind of our applications. And then we have a customer. It's hard to pick because we got a lot of customers that tell us various things, but Derek Brock is basically a head grower at a cannabis facility, and they have to spray a lot. But they have stopped spraying since using our systems, and now they pass testing where they used to throw away product. He's been on conference calls with other customers and stating that we've literally saved his company. So I don't like to take claim for that because it's not one thing that ever protects a perishable, people included. You have standard operating procedures that you need to continue. Granted, there are cases where you now don't have to shock treat at night. You don't have to pay for somebody to wipe down. We're starting to save in the hospitality arena. We're starting to save thousands of dollars in sanitation efforts due to the fact that they install our equipment. Ultra low energy use. We use a lot less energy than any of the other competitive products, but we also can touch the surfaces where they cannot. So I will hand this back over to you, Sinjin. I appreciate your time.
Great, thanks, Brian. The microphone's working again, so thanks. So yeah, there's a lot there to take on from what Brian's been passing on about his applications. And just before we move on to the questions and answers, just a quick summary here of some of the products that Aeroqual provides for monitoring. On the top left-hand corner, we have our handheld monitors, and these are great for spot monitoring, health, just going into an area and checking, or they can be more mounted in a bracket, and this is checking that levels are being maintained. We have a fixed monitor in the middle, at the top there, and that's for permanent continuous monitoring of an environment. So you might put this into a workplace or attach it to equipment or to a mobile sterilizing ozone generator. And the same with the Series 930 on the top right-hand side. So that's the model that I showed that Jimco was using, although they don't receive the display or the siren stream on top, which can be activated if levels get above a predetermined level. So if you were in an environment and you've got your control level set to 0.05 ppm and it hits that limit, then your alarm will go off, and then that will be an indicator that either you need to say to employees, hey guys, you need to move out, or that you might want to check for leaks or something else that's going on. Bottom left-hand corner, we have the SM70, which is a more compact version of the monitors above, and slightly different focus. It's a more cheaper product, price point than the other products, but it's got a built-in piezo alarm buzzer, and just slightly different applications. It doesn't have the IP rating of the unit on the top right-hand corner, and then the OEM board on the bottom right-hand corner that is used for companies who wish to integrate our products into their own. Okay, so we're just going to move on to Q&A. I hope you found it interesting. I've seen some good questions coming through, and there's quite a few, so we'll see how we go getting through them all. There's been a few coming through asking if they'll be able to get a copy of the presentation afterwards. Yep, we will be sending a link through to the presentation that you can download and watch to your heart's content and draw some extra knowledge from it. Someone mentioned about the efficacy of water. So we're not actually talking about water in this presentation. I know there's a lot of information out there, and you want to know if ozonated water is effective. And there's a lot of some of our customers we sell to actually sell products that ozonate water, and they've got a number of validation certification around it though. So it is a low-end process, and it is, I understand it is effective, but it's not something that we support obviously with the air monitors with ozone. Are there any ozone sensors which are safety integrity level validated for use in safety instrumented functions, IEC 61508? I'm not familiar with that standard. I imagine it may be you may be referring to ATEX possibly, or double backup, but yeah, we can probably answer some of these afterwards. So I'll look into it, but I can't answer that specifically at this point. What is the minimum level for ozone concentration indoors so that you don't have an impact on your health? Yeah, so if you've got a health complication, then that's going to be purely subjective as to the complication you have. But there are, depending where you're dialing in from today, there'll be a local occupational health and safety or workplace safety or a national occupational safety act that will determine what levels are suitable for the environment. So I touched on those a little bit earlier. Well, typically what you see is a work environment where people are doing light work, and over 8 hours, the limit there is between 0.07 ppm ozone and 0.1 ppm ozone over 8 hours. But if you are doing heavy lifting or a lot of exertion in that environment, then the ozone threshold in that area drops to around about 0.05 ppm, which just goes to show the type of sensor that you're choosing for monitoring. And it needs to be suitable for the application if you want to get that low level of accuracy. Yeah, here in the States, St. here, yeah, the OSHA at 50 ppb, that's 24 hours a day exposure. So, and we operate at 30, so we always tell customers they can get about 36 hours of work out of their employees now, every day. Oh, that's great. Thanks, Brian. I see yes for that one too. Yeah. Not true, but it's still, yeah. Yeah, and then Brian, you might want to talk this one as well, possibly, because I know it's going to vary. So the question here is, what is the correct ozone dosage for room sterilization using ozone? So that's quite subjective. It depends on the size of the room and the efficacy that you're doing, and I guess the amount of ozone that you want to inject into the room. And
Yeah.
any comments on that one?
Yeah, the trick, like ozone is tricky because ozone alone, and I've seen different results, like when you're using an ozone generator to get a 4-log kill, they needed, I think the one result I saw was 180 minutes, so 3 hours at 10,000 ppb or 10 ppm. So that's when you're just using ozone alone. So now if you're like with our system where you're mixing hydrogen peroxide and the trioxidane, we were able to do a 4-log kill in 15 minutes at 30 ppb. So that's bivolumetric of air, meaning everywhere you measure in the room should be 30. If there's a spot that's lower, a spot that's higher, there may be a little difference in time. But most of the time, you know, it's like you said, it's environmental based, but it's based on the volumetric of, you know, volumetric measurement. So
cool. Another question here about ozone levels and concentration in water and wastewater. So again, our focus here is on ozone in the air. So unfortunately, I can't answer that for you. Right. So is ozone treatment safe in an open fire situation, kitchen, for example? Yeah, it's fine. Obviously within the limits, the health and safety limits. Typically where it's used in the kitchen is in extraction systems, and they would often have an ozone monitor in the kitchen itself for spillover from those extraction systems.
Yeah, ozone itself isn't actually flammable, so that's, yeah, it's an organic treatment.
Okay, does air needs to be mixed with to make ozone, and do you need to consider the measurement position? Yeah, so ozone is generated using air, and it's not a chemical or anything that's added to the air. It's a sort of a reaction in the air by process. And in terms of measuring ozone, you do need to think about where you're working. So if you're putting a sensor up on the ceiling, ozone tends to be heavy and it drops. So you want it to be measured typically around the head level of where people are working if you're putting it into a work environment. So yeah, we do have some guidelines around where to place monitors that we can send you to. But yeah, there is consideration about locating it in relation to ventilation, where people are located in the workspace.
Yeah, most of the O3 is generated using oxygen as its fuel source, basically. So if 21% oxygen is available, then an ozone generator would either scrub it, so they kind of concentrate the O2, and then use that to generate the O3. Sometimes they even dry it. Others, like us, will use the ambient air because we want the H2O that's in the air, the moisture in the air, to create the hydrogen peroxide, etc. So, and then as you mentioned, Sinjin, yeah, the level where you put the sensor is important, that it's sensing the environment where the people are.
Yeah. The question around the Jimco treatment and what level was required. I believe, like what Brian mentioned before, it was 3 hours at 10 ppm. And that's I think it's fairly common. If you want to reduce the time, you would increase the ppm, or and again, it comes down to the space that you're in, how large a space. There's a number of variables that need to be considered there. How long does ozone live for? That's a good question. So ozone breaks down as soon as it touches a surface, or it breaks down very fast. It's not something that hangs around for a long period of time. I don't know if you can want to talk to this, Brian, as well. But
yeah, I mean, when I've ever done the high levels, I've never got ours is not an ozone generator, so we're not in the 10,000 ppm. But every time we've done shock, like for truck shock or things like that. And if we get up in the, let's say the 700 ppb range for that type of application, normally within 30 to 45 minutes at the most, we're back down to zero. I've never really seen it take longer than, like I said, 45 minutes ever to see ozone drop down back to, normal zero level or very low levels. So it's normally pretty fast.
Yeah,
that's what's nice about it. It's really dynamic that way. So it has to be constantly generated and constantly monitored, and it's dynamic. It tells you what's going on, and then if the generator or purifier stops, then you know immediately. So it's pretty quick.
Yeah. So here. There's a question around here, excuse me, it's a question around here, how we address clients' concerns about ozone use. Just mentioning it as taboo, as not even a consideration for most. And yeah, and I think that comes down to, it's still relatively unknown for many people. And as we saw on the poll earlier, there's a lot of people here who are dialing in for finding out for the first time. One of the things that you can really do is put some assurances around and monitoring the level of ozone, I think, because then you've got a control there. You're able to say to people, this is from a monitor, we can see what the level of ozone is, and it's within this range, which is safe. And if you want, we can put some alarms to it, so that if it goes above a certain level, then everyone will know about it. So I think it's about reassuring people, and it's the same thing as to, it's just that, yeah, it's an unknown for many people, and so naturally there's going to be some concerns around it.
Yeah, the big thing is, like, ozone does weirdly give ozone a bad name, right? So you see on the news, air quality index, ozone ground levels are high, that type of thing. But when you start educating a customer and you explain to them, that, like you said, we have the monitoring in place. So if we're doing a shock, nobody enters in the room until it is safe. Or if you're doing a continuous treatment, in our case, that our levels are below even the 24-hour exposure limits, based on occupational safety, the safety and environmental health and safety people requirements, then and even that outside, it's higher levels than inside. Most people are okay, and it's just like anything. Too much of any one thing, chlorine's bad, right? If you were to have too high of a dose, but it's not going to stop me from swimming in a chlorinated pool because it's used appropriately. So when something's used appropriately or monitored appropriately, it's a lot easier to explain to a customer its efficacy and what it's accomplishing, and that outweighs the negative impact that they've heard of ozone.
Yep. Okay. I see there's still got questions coming through, so I've got to try and push through some of these. I don't think I can get back to everybody on them. So there's a question around the impact of ozone on materials and things in the room. So ozone will, if it's used at low levels continuously, then it's not going to have an impact. We're surrounded by ozone outside all the time, and but when you're in a sterilization environment, obviously you're treating things at a lot higher levels of ozone, and continual high levels of exposure will actually have some impact on material life. But it's all relative to the presence, the time, duration, exposure over time.
Yeah, rubber is a natural enemy of ozone. That's the biggest issue that you'll find on most things. You'll get some corrosion on certain metals at high levels for a long time if there's a lot of humidity. It causes oxidation, basically. But yeah, low levels, you're pretty safe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a question here about ozone treatment in vehicles and public transit. So, and that's a good one, because we are getting a lot of inquiries, and we've seen applications going where rental companies are using ozone treatment in their vehicles before they put the vehicle out for rental again. Planes, particularly charter planes, they're using ozone to treat the interior of the plane. So that's one of the ways they're marketing their planes now, is that they've been disinfected with ozone. It's a good thing. So yeah, at a lower dosage over a longer time is better. But if you're really going to go for that really high dosage, then the lifetime of those materials will come down. But you've got such a variety there, I can't really talk to the life of any of them. But yeah, obviously the higher exposure, like of any chemical on any surface, is going to cause deterioration over time.
Yep.
What is the airflow of a handheld sensor? It's about 0.5 litre per minute. Will the 0 to 30 ppm sensor also be available on the SM50? No, not at this stage. It's just really going to be on the sensor head that can be used on the Series 900, the handheld, and the remote sensor kit. But we may expand that as we see other applications come up. Do the wall mount and handheld sensors have the same amount of airflow? Yes, yep. That's about 0.5 litre per minute. Do your monitors read up to 5 ppm? Yep. We've got our sensors, obviously, they go up to 0 to 10, and we're going to go up to 0 to 30, and we also have down to, so I'm wondering if that's going to be 5 ppb, but yeah, certainly up to 5 ppm, and we go down to 1 ppb as well. So we've got a sensor that can go down that low as well, but it's quite a specific application. There's quite some specific ones here which we may need to come back to around, you know, they've got an environment of this big, or they've got a 200 drone facility that they want to treat. So we might need to see if we can address those after this. I'm not sure we can talk to them specifically at this this environment. Yeah, are your products ATEX certified? No, no, they're not. ATEX is basically, for those that aren't aware, is being able to put the instruments into an explosive environment. I'm not sure if you can see some of the questions, Brian. Feel free to jump into.
Yeah, I unfortunately cannot see those. So.
Okay.
I'm just patiently awaiting you to read them all.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question, Brian. Sorry, folks. There's some really good questions coming here. I just want to see if we can get the come through. So, if we don't get to your question on this call today, what we'll probably do is try and answer them in the follow-up email to you all. But yeah, I've got quite a large number of questions still coming through, which is great. But I think, in fairness to everyone, rather than sitting here and going through them all, it's probably best we come back and answer them directly to you, and that will save everyone sitting through things that aren't relevant to them. So thank you for all your questions. We will get back to you. I really appreciate the time that you've taken out to join us today, and wherever you are in the world, from New Zealand, haere. Thank you.
Yes, thank
Brian,
you
for joining us today, and for your time and knowledge. And we hope you can join us again in the future.
Yep. Yeah. Great.
Okay. Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, St. John. Bye.
Bye-bye.